How's it going, guys? Cameron here with Canadian Gamer coming at you with another video. Now this one's been long awaited. Now I actually started recording this video. I got about 3 minutes in and I realized I forgot to hit record on the camera. So let's try this again. This has been a long time coming. Today I want to give my final thoughts on Alan Wake 2, which I recently, I completed it just last night. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little introduction as to how I was introduced to Alan Wake. And then I'll share my thoughts that I have written down here on a piece of paper. So I don't want this video to be too long in the tooth. It will probably end up being 20 minutes because that's usually how these things go. But again, I do want to stress this is more of a final thoughts more than a review. Because to do a proper review, to break down the gameplay and everything, I don't know how these YouTubers do it in 10 minutes. Oh, wait, they don't actually play the game. Right. But if I were to do a proper review of Alan Wake 2, the video would probably be an hour and a half long. I'm serious. So how I was introduced to Alan Wake was, I've talked about it before on the channel, in the early 2000s, probably right up to 2008, 2009, I had walked away from gaming. I wasn't really gaming a whole lot. And then somebody, I don't even remember how the situation, how it ended up like this, but somebody owed me like 50 or 60 bucks and they didn't have a red cent to their name. Again, at this point I was in my 20s, right? And this guy I was hanging out with didn't have any money. So he gave me his Xbox 360. Again, I had never played a 360, didn't know anything about Xbox. And he gave me a copy of Fallout 3. So obviously I took it, gave it a shot, loved Fallout 3. Again, this is around 2009, 2010. Shortly after, I picked up Skyrim? Yeah, maybe it was Skyrim. Around that time, all these games kind of came out at the same time. Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim. And then I picked up Fallout New Vegas. And then I remember going to the mall at the time, and I walked into what was called EB Games. EB Games. It's now GameStop in Canada. We finally transitioned to GameStop. And I walked in and I saw Alan Wake. And it said right on the box there, it's a psychological thriller. And I'm a huge fan of Twin Peaks, right? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Alan Wake? I'm like, you're an author? Psychological thriller? This sounds really cool. This sounds like right up my alley. So I bought Alan Wake. I bought it brand new. And I played through it. And I thought it was great. I thought it was amazing. And then shortly thereafter, Alan Wake's New Nightmare came out. It was kind of like a standalone game, not really a DLC. It was okay. I don't even know if I actually played all the way through that. And then a couple of years later, I picked up a copy of Deadly Premonition for the Xbox 360. Now, this game bears a lot of similarities to the original Alan Wake, but the one thing that this game had going for it, which was kind of the weak spot as far as Alan Wake was concerned, was gameplay. You talk to a lot of people out there, myself included, even John Linneman from Digital Foundry echoes the same sentiment. The one weak spot in the original Alan Wake was the gameplay. It just kind of got repetitive. You're running around, you're taking down the Taken with your flashlight and your gun, your pistol, and you're running away. You're going up the mountain, and then a couple of minutes later, you got more Taken that are running after you, and you're taking them down with your flashlight, and you're loading up your batteries and all that. It was still fun. Don't get me wrong, but as far as the gameplay was concerned, sometimes gameplay hasn't always been Remedy's strongest suit, right? Let's be honest here. Their games make up for it with their story-driven narratives and their interesting set pieces, if that makes sense. If you played the original Max Payne, it's kind of the same idea. Although I would almost argue that Alan Wake, as far as gameplay is concerned, is a step back from Max Payne. But fast forward to what was not even a year and a half ago, I picked up Alan Wake Remastered. Right here, you can see it, which I played on my Xbox One X, and I thought it was fantastic, better than I remembered. I had a lot of fun playing Alan Wake Remastered. Didn't have any complaints, but I enjoyed it more than the old version on the 360. It just looks so much better. Again, a lot of times with these remastered games, I know we're getting off topic here, sometimes it's kind of dialed in, but I thought they did a really good job with the Alan Wake Remastered. So that kind of gives you an idea of how I was introduced to Alan Wake. Now, a lot of us that were fans of Alan Wake have been craving for a sequel for over a decade. And you got to remember, you might not remember, but there was actually a time, or again, around the time I picked up Alan Wake, it wasn't actually that popular. Okay, it was very niche. It was very much like Twin Peaks. It was very cult-like. When Twin Peaks came out back in the day, it wasn't as popular as it is now. Absolutely not. Over time, it just it aged well, I guess you could say. And now we're living in an era where we're having a lot of copycat media, right? Like Stranger Things. And to an even greater extent, I guess you could say Alan Wake, right? And even Deadly Premonition, right? They all owe a lot to David Lynch and Mark Frost and Twin Peaks. So when I heard that we were getting a sequel to Alan Wake, for me personally, that was exciting. That was really, really exciting. I could not wait to get my hands on it. I'm a huge fan of Remedy. I'm a huge fan of Sam Lake. So I was very excited. Now, when it was announced over a year and a half ago, it felt like it was so far away. But the release date came up so quickly that I wasn't even able to purchase it when it came out because I was still trying to complete Starfield. So, anyways, just wanted to give you a bit of an intro as to how I was introduced to Alan Wake. So we're just going to jump right into it, okay? So I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the controversies surrounding the release, and then we'll get into some likes and dislikes, and then we'll wrap things up because we're already at the 7-minute mark here, okay? So the big elephant in the room, even before the game came out, was the fact that Remedy had announced that there was not going to be a physical release. A lot of gamers and the gaming community were really upset and butthurt about this. Now, I think it was announced on Remedy's website. Okay, I don't know if it was Sam Lake specifically, but it was somebody who had gone on record and said one of the main reasons why Alan Wake 2 was not getting a physical release was it allowed Remedy to have more time to polish the game so that when it was released, you wouldn't be hit with like a day one patch and all these patches and all the rest of it. The game could be rolled out in a much better state. So what's the point of releasing a game, physically when it just has to be patched and patched and patched, right? So I released a video a couple of weeks ago talking about my theory as to why Remedy wasn't releasing a physical copy of the game. I was off. I was way off base in that video. I have to apologize. I would have to say, now that I have played the game, I would have to say the reason why we didn't get a physical release is because this game came in red fucking hot. Oh my god. Oh my god. So many glitches in this game, which we can talk about as we go along once we get into the likes and dislikes. This game was in no way, shape, or form ready for a physical release, okay? So for any of you out there that are complaining that this game didn't get a physical release, you should be happy that it didn't get a physical release, because now when it finally does get a physical release, it'll be completely patched, okay? At the time of this video, the game has been patched 4 times, okay? 4 fucking times, okay? There was 4 occasions where I turned on my Xbox and I booted up the game and it was updating. Okay? Which is a pain in the ass because when the game updates, it interrupts the quick resume feature on the Xbox Series console. Okay? The quick, whatever you call it. I don't know what they call it. Smart delivery? I don't know. Smart resume. And it boots you back to the menu. It fucking sucks. So the game has been patched 4 times. Okay, so it is a pain in the ass because anyone who bought the game, obviously you don't really own it, right? You have a digital version of it, and then it comes out physically, which inevitably it probably will, it'll be patched. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Okay, that's probably the reason why I didn't get a physical release. The game wasn't ready for it. You guys have to understand that when we play these games, sometimes you need to look at it from a business perspective, and these guys need to get this game out the door, before the Christmas rush. So the second thing we could talk about is the Sweet Baby Inc. controversy. Now, I posted a video talking about Sweet Baby Inc. Now, I have to be honest with you. Aside from, the weird dialogue kind of at the end of the game where Saga mentions how black women are treated unfairly by white people. I know. It's a bit. Come on.
How I get to do it.
Aside from that, though, and her child, her daughter's name is Logan. Is Logan a female name? Is it? I guess maybe in 2023 you could name your child whatever you'd like. So I guess that might have been a decision by Sweet Baby Inc. as well. The other thing too, whenever you finish an act or a chapter, you get a screen that plays music, okay? There's it's like a black screen and there's some smoke on the screen and there's music playing, kind of like Twin Peaks, okay? And at the bottom of the screen, there's text, there's subtitles for the lyrics, okay, in quotes. Why? I have no idea. There's no way to turn it off. You can disable subtitles in the game, but it still forces you to look at these weird subtitles when the music is playing. Super cringe. Could you imagine if a television show did that? I have to imagine this has to do with maybe catering to the hearing impaired. Maybe. I don't know. Having said that, aside from that, there wasn't really anything super in your face or intrusive as far as this game pushing inclusion on the gamer. Not that there's anything wrong with inclusion, but you know what I mean. There are some games that are taken to the extreme. We talked about it. Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 is one of them. It's just taking it way too far, in my opinion. But this game, actually, it wasn't that bad, to be honest with you. It wasn't that bad. Only 26% of gamers that played Alan Wake 2 at the time of this video have completed it. So that goes to show you that most out there that played it, including a lot of those reviewers out there, which, again, funny enough, go watch some of those videos. Funny how they only show gameplay footage from the first hour and a half of the game. Isn't that ironic? Only 26% managed to finish the game. Okay, I didn't actually watch any of the spoilers before I played the game. I didn't want to see any of the gameplay footage. I wanted to sort of go in completely blindfolded. I didn't want any of the surprises to be ruined for me. You can play the game in quality mode or performance mode, right? Now, actually, you might find this as a surprise. I opted to play the game for the most part. You'll see some video at the end here that it will be running at 60 FPS, but for the most part, I played the game at 30 FPS, 30 frames per second. The reason why I did that, for two reasons. The first one is, especially when you're in some of the dense areas, especially when you're in Cauldron Lake, you'll notice that if you go from quality mode to performance mode, there is just way too much of the set dressing that is removed as far as the grass is concerned, and the trees and the leaves and everything around you. So if you want my opinion, you'd be better off playing the game at 30 FPS because there's so much set dressing that is removed. It's actually shocking. The other thing too, when you play the game at 60 FPS, it's buttery smooth, yes. But the way that your character looks when he's moving around on screen, it's almost too smooth for that type of aesthetic that they're going for in the game. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the game kind of looks better when you're playing it at 30 FPS. It almost looks like, tell me if any in the comments if this makes sense to any of you guys, but sometimes when you play a game at 60 FPS, it almost feels like a reality show. You know, the fluidity of the movements of the characters, it's almost too fluid. So to play it at 30 FPS and then turn off the motion blur, turn that off, okay? And then turn off the other setting there as well, the grain, the film grain, and you'll have yourself a comparable It almost looks better than 30 FPS. Obviously not 60 FPS, but when you put the motion blur on, that's where it's like, oh man. Now, if you go from 30 FPS to 60, yeah, it is a bit jarring. It is jarring, right? But I played the game for the most part at 30 FPS. So once your eyes adjust to it, it's not that bad. So we'll get into the likes and dislikes because there's a lot of them here. So we'll start with the likes. Already at 15 minutes here. Holy fuck. Remedy made really good use of color saturation in the game. There's a lot of rooms you walk into that are like a bright green, a red, purple lighting, blue. Looks really good. The presentation, the art direction is spot on. Spot on. The live action cutscenes, this is something that's a hallmark. It's a staple for Remedy, and it's no exception in Alan Wake 2. You're getting a lot of live action cutscenes, and I'm a sucker for that. I love that. That was really the main thing that attracted me to Alan Wake, the original, and it's no exception here. Pretty much all the actors and actresses put on a really good performance, and that's something else I want to talk about in a minute as well. We'll talk about Saga Anderson. The Remedy universe is very much tied into this game, so that you'll see it when you play the game, but they make reference to Control, and they make reference to Max Payne as well. So the three characters in the game, the main characters, would be Saga Anderson, the FBI agent, and then you've got Alex Casey, which is played by Sam Lake of Remedy, and then you've got the guy that portrays Alan Wake, and he's a really good actor. I gotta say, he is a really good actor, that guy. So he's got strong ties to Remedy, right? Obviously, I think he was even in Control. So as far as as far as Sam Lake is concerned, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but back when the original Max Payne came out, that was a game that was created on a shoestring budget. There was a lot of family members and friends involved in that project of Sam Lake and the other creators and everyone else involved. That was a different Remedy back then, right? So you got to remember, you see Sam Lake as Max Payne, it's because it was due to budget constraints, right? So then when Max Payne was a moderate success, right? I think Rockstar published Max Payne 2, if I'm not mistaken. And at that point, they were working with a bigger budget. So Sam Lake was able to sort of take a step back because he was more interested in the screenwriting process, okay? The story, narrative, writing the story, and all the rest of it. That they were able to get a professional actor to portray Max Payne 2. Sorry, Max Payne in Max Payne 2. You fast forward to Max Payne. Wow, I'm losing my mind here. You fast forward to 2023, and here we are with Alan Wake 2. And you got Sam Lake in the game. And not only is he in the game, he's in it a lot. He's in it almost as much as Max. He's in it almost as much as Alan Wake and Saga Anderson. He's an integral part of the game. And I kind of get it. At his core, Sam Lake is an actor. You can tell when you look at the guy, he's in really good shape. And he's got the chops. He's a good actor. He's really good. And I think he's probably at a stage in his career, in his life, where he says, you know what? Remedy is a well-oiled machine now. I can sort of take a step back from, the creator. Well, I think he's probably still, judging by the end credits in the game, he's still involved with the story and the script writing, but he's fallen in love with acting, and obviously. And you'll see when you play Alan Wake 2 later on in the game. It seems to me, I could be wrong, this is a huge assumption, but later on in the game, Sam Lake is basically portraying Max Payne, okay? He's portraying Max Payne. So I think, because Remedy is in the process of, they're going to be developing Max Payne 1 and 2 combined like a combo pack, like a remake, right? And it's going to be done with the graphics of Alan Wake 2. I wouldn't be shocked if Sam Lake came back into the fold and portrayed Max Payne again, which would be cool. So I could definitely see that. As far as Saga Anderson is concerned, the more I played the game, the more I got used to the character, and I thought she did a really good job. The actress that portrayed Saga Anderson. So the actress is actually not a young girl. She's young, but she's not like 20 years old like I had insinuated in my prior videos. She's 36 years old. She's a British or an English actress. So she hides her accent well, but there are certain points within the game, if you really listen in, you can tell she's English. You can hear the twang in her voice. It's fine. It's fine. But I think she did a really good job. And the nice thing about the game is, like, half the game you're playing as Alan Wake, and the other half of the game you're playing as Saga Anderson. So, you know, you'd be playing as Saga for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you get through that act or that chapter, and then you switch over to Alan Wake. And the thing is the way Remedy, at least in my opinion, the way they set things up in the game is, sometimes when you're playing as Saga Anderson, the game kind of drags a bit. And we'll get into it in a bit in the dislikes. But once you finally get through that chapter as Saga, and you get to play as Alan, Remedy just ratchets things up. They dial it up to about 11. And you're like, yes, Alan Wake. And there's like a real sense of occasion. So it's not. I'm not saying it's not fun to play as Saga, but there are some aspects to it where you're kind of going through the game and you're like, oh fuck, I kind of want to just flip back over to Alan Wake. So yeah, again, we'll get into that in just a minute here. So yeah, I think she did a really good job, whatever the girl's name is. So yeah, nice balance between characters. What else can we talk about? Oh, there's a really cool kind of like a light bulb mechanism in the game. So when you're playing specifically as Alan Wake, you've got like this. You've got this light bulb in your bag, in your little satchel there, and you can pull it out only when you're in the right area, and you can change the scene is what it's called, right? So you could be in a room, and you hold your light bulb up, and all of a sudden it goes, and it changes the whole scene. It changes the whole room around you into a completely different room. It's the same room, but different set dressing, and it's really, really cool. I thought that was probably one of the most enjoyable aspects of this game. I thought that was really cool. The plot was really good. It was. I love these story-driven narrative, semi-linear games like this, where the story is the main focal point. You know, I see a lot of reviewers out there calling Alan Wake 2 Alan Walk, or calling it a walking simulator. What the fuck are you talking about? It's not a walking simulator. What are you talking about? Oh my god. Hello? Some of us enjoy this style of adventure games, okay? Some of us enjoy walking around and looking at every little bit and piece of the set dressing, looking around, taking it all in. That's what I did. I took my time. So it took me maybe 23 hours to beat this game. And I got almost 70% of the achievements. I took my time with it. I made sure to get my money's worth. I made sure to look around at everything. So, I guess the last thing we'll talk about before we move on to the negatives is the graphics. Obviously, the game is a technical showpiece. It is a visual tour de force. I wouldn't be shocked if the game does win Game of the Year. When you play through the game, it's a very long game.
I was writing the story.
You can tell it took them probably 4 or 5 years to develop and create this world. Very detailed, very impressive. Again, story-driven experience. I think it's got what it takes to win Game of the Year. I wouldn't be shocked. Hopefully it does win Game of the Year. You know, I wanted Starfield to be in the running, but since that ain't happening, then hopefully we can get Alan Wake 2 up there as Game of the Year. And hopefully we can get a physical release. You know, that'd be cool. Give us a nice limited edition release. So, the next thing we'll get into is the dislikes. Now, I probably missed a few here. So, the first thing, with the original Alan Wake, for those who have played it, you know, you're in Cauldron Lake and you're working your way up the mountain, right? And there's a real sense of occasion. And I mentioned earlier there's a sense of occasion to a certain degree in Alan Wake 2, but it wasn't quite like it was in the original Alan Wake. You know, the original Alan Wake, there were points where you could actually jump in a vehicle and drive the vehicle up the mountain and maneuver your way around logs that were tumbling down the mountain and all kinds of obstacles. Yeah, maybe that's kind of corny, but I like that aspect of the original Alan Wake. I liked the idea of starting at the bottom of the mountain and working your way up to the top. I don't know if it was a mountain. You know what I mean? It was kind of like a scene out of The Shining, right? You're trying to reach a destination, okay? Whereas it's not really like that in Alan Wake 2. There are no driving sequences, unfortunately, and you've got kind of like a very it's small enough, I guess. You've got like a little pocket of New York City, and that's where Alan Wake gameplay takes place. And within that little pocket, there's like 4 or 5 different buildings you can go to, and they all play a factor on that portion of the game. You know, there's a TV studio, which is really cool, talk show studio. There's Alan Wake's apartment is in the huge, tall, the tower, right? The Ocean View Hotel is there, and all the rest of it. It's cool, but it's not like it was in the original Alan Wake, where you're working your way up the mountain. And then,
but I don't know enough about my family.
Yeah. So with Saga, the other thing I want to just sort of get it out of the way here. Saga has what's called, she calls it my mind space. This has got to be the worst thing about the game. Okay, Saga's my mind space is what she calls it. Saga Anderson. There, okay. Her mind space. So this is basically all it is you hit select on the controller and it brings you into her office. Okay, and in the office she's got a file cabinet with all her files. Okay, and then she's got a case board. So what happens is you go over to the file cabinet once in a while, and all it is there's a bunch of Polaroids in there. Okay, so you take the Polaroids and you go over to the case board, and you have to basically put them up on the wall.
Took care of all this.
I couldn't have been any more disinterested in that. I was just throwing darts at the wall to see what would stick. I would get a Polaroid, and I wouldn't even look at it. I'm just trying to get it up on the wall, because by putting these pictures up on the wall, it allows you to open up more of the story so you can proceed along the chapter. You have to go up to the storyboard, and you have to put these Polaroids up on the wall. It can get really downright tedious, especially at the very end of the game. You have to go back into my mind space. You have to go back into Saga's mind space, and I don't know why I'm talking like that. And you got to take a bunch of pictures. Like, we're talking like 50, 60 of them, and you got to find out where they all go. It's a fucking pain in the ass. That was, in my humble opinion, I understand why they did that. You know, they're trying to, you know, allow you to soak in more of the story. But I got to the point where I was actually skipping over a lot of the dialogue. I only have so much time in the day. So yeah, Saga's my mind space. I thought that was a huge misstep. I didn't really like that. I think it would have been okay to have been able to go into that my mind space and use it to look at the map, and you can listen to the radio. But the music's cringe in the game. That's another thing. The game is up for best music. The music sucks in this game. It sucks. The original Alan Wake had better music. Hell, if you can recall, it wasn't in the remastered version, but in the original Alan Wake, there was actually licensed music. There's actually David Bowie's Space Oddity was one of the songs in the game, if you could believe it. None of that in Alan Wake 2. It's just super cringe music. Really cringe. The story is almost too convoluted. It got to the point where I didn't even know what the hell they were talking about. They were talking about Mr. Scratch. They were talking about getting a clicker. They were talking about going to Saga's My Mind Space. Okay, talking about all this stuff, you know, the gods of Asgard and alternate dimensions. It's almost too convoluted. Okay, it got to be a little intense. The game is almost too long for me. Again, the game took almost as long as it took for me to beat Starfield. It kept going and going and going. It's a long ass game. You get your money's worth, but it's a long ass game. To me, it's almost a little bit too long. The other issue I have, this is probably one of the biggest issues, was there was a lot, I talked about at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of bugs in the game as we get to the half-hour mark here. A lot of bugs in the game, a lot of shadow flickering. At the end of the game, I was this close to beating it, and the game hard crashed on me. it kicked me back to the Xbox dashboard, and I had to go back into the game and start all over. Didn't save my progress. It hard crashed on me. That was the only time it hard crashed on me. It was right at the end of the game. Again, lots of graphical issues. I experienced another part at the end of the game playing as Saga where I couldn't walk through a certain part in the city, but you could tell it was clear to walk through, and I couldn't walk through. So again, the game came in red hot. Lots of glitches, lots of bugs, all kinds of bugs. Honestly, more bugs than I experienced with Starfield. That's how many bugs there were. I kid you not. It was unbelievable. The other issue I want to talk about, again, going back to the graphics, as good as the game looks, and I hopefully I say this in a way where you guys who are still watching this video can understand. It's like if you took a game that looked really good on the PC, okay, and it was ported to like the Xbox 360 as an example. I think if I'm trying to think of maybe an example would be like Doom 3 on the original Xbox, or Half-Life 2 on the 360 on the orange box. Or maybe, Mortal Kombat when it was ported to the Super NES as an example. At first glance, you're like, oh my god, it looks just like the arcade. But then you look a little bit closer and cracks start to form and you start to see issues here and there. So that's what happened with Alan Wake 2. You guys don't understand. And I think, admittedly, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't have an HDR TV and the blacks don't look right. But a lot of the game has like a weird, almost like a grainy look to it. Like, as an example, you walk up to like a brown picnic table and you look at it, and there's like a silvery, grayish sheen to it, and it looks like sandpaper kind of. But I had the film grain turned off on the game, and it was still grainy. Everything was really grainy. Even when you go into houses and cabins and all those areas, this grain is just everywhere. And I don't think it's like that on the PC. There's no ray tracing for whatever reason. There's no reflections. You walk into a room and you can't even look at yourself in the mirror. It's just all grain. No reflections. You think with the Series X you'd be able to see the reflections. No reflections whatsoever. No reflections in the water. Like, that is pretty disappointing, to be honest with you. But you go watch a video from Digital Foundry of this game on PC. That's where you would want to play this game. HDR on a PC. Running at 60 FPS in quality mode, or 120 FPS. This game got a huge visual downgrade on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. I'm sorry, it did. Like I said, the game looks good from far, but it's far from good. Go play it, and you will start to see issues with the graphics in this game, okay? Obviously, there was a lot of cost cutting involved with getting this game to run appropriately on these consoles that we have. But man, I'm telling you, it's really unfortunate because this game looks gorgeous, but there's things that they've done to it on the console that really take away from what this game could be. So honestly, if I could go back and do it again, I would buy an HDR TV. That's a must. And this game would be a lot more enjoyable on the PC. The other thing, too, is, are we ever going to get to a point where video games are at the same level as a major motion picture? Because some of the stuff that they do, some of the design choices that they do in this game, like when you're playing a Saga, sometimes it'll transition to, you can listen to manuscripts, and it's just Alan Wake talking, but they'll put up like a static image of like an owl. And it's just really, looks really cheesy and really low budget. I don't know how to explain it, but I wish we could get to a point where a video game doesn't necessarily look like a video game. You'd think with this multi-million-dollar budget that they probably had for this game, that they could have put a little bit more care into some of the smaller details like that. Speaking of smaller details, there was a lack of attention to detail in a lot of the scenes in the game. And the one that sticks out in my mind the most is at the very beginning when you're at the morgue and you're playing as Saga Anderson, and she takes her bare hand and she sticks her hand into the chest cavity of a corpse to pull out an object that is in the guy's stomach. Hello? I'm no expert, but if you were at a morgue, okay, and you were going to inspect the chest cavity of a corpse, okay, you would put a glove on, wouldn't you? God. Anytime you go into a house or a building, even one that has electricity, you can't turn on the light switch. You have to use your flashlight. For whatever reason, it makes no sense. I think you could even turn the lights on in the old Max Payne. Maybe even the original Alan Wake. I can't remember. But I thought that was really weird that you couldn't turn a light switch on. You had to constantly use your flashlight. So it's just these little things that start to add up. And, you know, again, who am I? I'm just a YouTuber. But if Remedy would have came to me and said, "Hey, CG, can you please test this game out for the next 5 months before we release it?" I would have brought all this stuff forward to them, even the glitches. Okay, but no, they don't want to do that. So that's what you're left with, right?
Scratch wrote return, not me.
So yeah, static imagery, cringe music, weird dialogue. Again, music that plays in between of the chapters, and you have to see the lyrics at the bottom of the screen. I don't know why that is. Would you see that in a major motion picture? Would you see that on a TV show where they would put the lyrics at the bottom like that? No, they wouldn't. You'd hear the music, but you wouldn't have the lyrics at the bottom of the screen. It's just weird. It's weird. So that's pretty much it. I could go into more dislikes, but I mean, this video it's already at 35 minutes, but but yeah, no, I'm telling you, the biggest dislike, one of the biggest dislikes, honestly, guys, I can't, you have to play it to understand, but it's the graphics. It's the graphics. Because, again, it looks amazing. It looks amazing until you really start to poke holes in it, and you start to see things that are happening within the game as far as the textures are concerned, and the shadows that are constantly flickering, and just no ray tracing, and no reflections and things like that. You would think there would be reflections. You think something. You think I'm being nitpicky, but that is just like immersion breaking. When you walk into a washroom or a bedroom and you walk past a mirror and you can't even see yourself in the mirror. I do not understand. I don't know if it's like that on the PC. I don't know if that was aesthetically a design choice. I don't know if it's too difficult to have that type of game as graphically intense as it is to be able to have the technology to show the reflection in the mirror. I don't know. But it baffles me that you can't see your reflection in the mirror. I don't know. So as far as giving the game a score, you know, even with all of the things that I just bitched about, and I'm sure I missed a lot of other things that I wanted to talk about as well, I would still give the game probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10. It would possibly even be a 10 out of 10 if it wasn't for all those nitpicks, all those negative things I had to say. But unfortunately, that's going to take it down a notch, okay? So I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10. If you are playing it and you don't have an HDR TV, I would say don't do that because it's going to ruin the experience. The blacks are going to look all messed up like it did for me. If you're waiting for a physical release, don't. Pick up the game now that it's been patched 4 times. And obviously, we're still experiencing glitches. Oh, the other thing, audio kept cutting out on me right up until the very end of the game. It would happen. My Xbox would be turned off. Okay, I'd come home. Oh, I'm gonna play Alan Wake 2. Boot it up. No audio whatsoever. No audio. I had times where I'd boot up the game and it would be really juddery. So there's still issues with the game. So, yeah, if you're waiting for a physical release, I wouldn't wait on it right now, not until you hear otherwise. I would just go out and pick it up. If you have an HDR TV, if you have the option to play it on PC, I would go there. Yes, it's an amazing game. I would say it's better than the original Alan Wake, absolutely. I hope it wins Game of the Year. It does bum me out that Remedy set the expectation that this was going to be largely a bug-free experience, and it just simply wasn't the case. So that kind of disappoints me from a consumer perspective. But all that being said, when you beat the game, it leaves things open for a sequel. And I'm interested in seeing if Max Payne, the remake, which is being done by Remedy with their Northlight engine, it'll be interesting to see if Saga Anderson and or Alan Wake make an appearance in the Max Payne reboot. Because like I said, all of the Remedy IPs, the universe is all tied in together. So really, 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 really cool stuff. You know, the original Alan Wake, as you guys can recall, when you beat it, what's the last thing Alan Wake says? He says, "This isn't a lake. This is an ocean. Well, at the end of Alan Wake 2, he says, I feel like we're going around in circles. This isn't a circle. This is a spiral. So obviously they're leaving it open for a sequel, but who knows if we'll ever get one, right? Who knows? And spoiler alert, later on in the game, you're watching a video from Alan Wake's wife, and it comes to light that she committed suicide. But then later on at the end of the game, you realize she actually didn't kill herself, and it was all part of the story to try to get Alan out of the dark place. So I gotta cut it off here. That's the longest video that I have ever done. Wow, over 40 minutes long. I don't think any of you probably stuck around to the end, but if you did, I hope you enjoyed my green lighting today. Trying to give you the guys that Alan Wake ambience, if you will. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. I'm gonna put this on. This is my next thing I gotta get through. Ugh. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You people are wonderful and beautiful. You take care.